Everyone in Chateau de Blois knew that Princess Marguerite of Anjou was to marry Prince Louis of Artois in 2 weeks. Everyone, that is, except Marguerite. She sat at her window like she always did at dusk, knees tucked beneath her silk nightgown, head resting against the cold stone sill, watching the courtyard below. Not for entertainment, not for escape, for distraction. She was 21, and the idea of marrying that man, Prince Louis, felt like swallowing spoiled wine, required but revolting. Then she saw him, not clearly, just the suggestion of broad shoulders, a leather-clad back, and the ease with which he dismounted his horse, like a man who knew exactly where every muscle belonged. "That is the new royal guard, Tristan, the king's finest. They say he fought off 4 men at once in Lyon." Marguerite didn't speak. She was too busy blinking. Not from the rain, but from the involuntary curiosity burning into her. She had seen guards before, handsome ones, vain ones who bowed with the sincerity of a tax collector. But this one, there was something about the way he didn't look up, as if the world bowed to him, not the other way around. He is too old and too serious. That armour could use polishing, but she didn't look away. Marguerite wandered through the hedge maze, cheeks flushed, lips pursed, speaking far too loudly to her lady-in-waiting. "The prince says I shall wear red at the wedding. Red! Can you imagine, like some painted goat in a festival parade?" Then she saw him. Tristan. Not training, not fighting. Just standing near the outer fountain, speaking with another guard. He turned. Their eyes met, briefly. Too briefly, but it was enough to startle her into silence. "He looked at me. He looked right at me." For the rest of the walk she did not complain once. Marguerite sat at her writing desk, quill in hand, ink untouched. "Céline, do you think someone like him has ever been kissed by a princess?" She laughed at herself. Silly. Ridiculous. But it didn't stop her from asking, "Why did he look away so quickly? Does he not find me beautiful? Or does he fear me?" A letter arrived from Prince Louis. She didn't open it. Instead, she walked to the window, again, and saw Tristan walking the southern wall, alone, lantern in hand. This time she watched longer. This time she didn't even pretend it was for distraction. "If he ever looked at me the way I look at him, I'd burn this entire palace down." The next morning, she told Céline, "I'm going to speak to him." "You cannot, Your Highness. It is not done." "It must be done. Because if I wait for him to act, I'll be wearing red and vowing my life to a man I don't even pity." Marguerite stood at the edge of the upper balcony, arms folded tightly against the soft gold of her gown. Below her, the courtyard bustled with guards, shifting in formation, voices murmuring, swords clinking into stabbards. Her eyes found him, Tristan. Not by accident. This was the 3rd morning she had come to watch the changing of the watch. She pretended to be interested in the routine, in the way the guards moved like chess pieces, but her gaze always landed on him. He hasn't looked up once. She'd even worn a new braid in her hair today. Céline had added tiny silver pins between each twist. He hadn't seen it. He hadn't seen her. "Your Highness?" Céline's voice was cautious, uncertain. "Shall I fetch your cloak? It's chilly this morning." Marguerite didn't turn. "No, I'm going down there." "Down? My lady, you can't. Unescorted. You'll..." Cutting in. confidently. "Watch me." Tristan stood with one hand resting on his belt, the other adjusting the strap across his chest. His brows were furrowed, the mark of a man forever on duty. Marguerite approached, heart hammering behind her ribs. "Good morning." He turned, slowly, bowed precisely.
"Your Highness?"
She tilted her head, lips twitching, half challenge, half flirt. "You are Tristan?"
"Yes, my lady."
"How long have you served here?"
14 days.
"And not once looked up at my window?"
"No, my lady."
"Do you always speak so briefly?"
"Yes, my lady."
"Even to women?"
"Especially to women."
She hadn't expected that. "Well, I see chivalry is dead."
"No, my lady. It is just well trained."
She stared at him, unsure whether to be offended or more fascinated. "Have you ever been in love, Tristan?" His gaze didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened.
"My duty does not allow for such things."
"But what if it found you anyway?"
"Then I would ask it to leave."
"Even if it was a princess?"
"Especially then."
He turned, walked away, leaving her frozen in place, breath caught in her throat. It had been days since Marguerite last appeared in the gardens, not since the moment in the courtyard, the one where her words had softened, her voice had cracked, and Tristan had walked away. She hadn't returned to the balcony. She hadn't passed through the rose path. She hadn't looked at him again. And Tristan noticed. He found himself walking a corridor he had no reason to be in. This part of the chateau was quiet, lined with narrow windows and long shadows. Ahead stood the heavy oak doors of the royal library, tall and iron-latched, flanked by stone lions. The scent of old parchment always lingered here. Outside, he shouldn't be here. This was not his post, no duty called him, yet still he came. He remembered something the stable boy had said one morning, offhandedly, almost without thinking, as he ran a brush down the mare's flank. The princess spends her mornings in the library now. Tristan hadn't asked. He hadn't meant to listen, and he certainly shouldn't have cared. But for some strange reason, he had, and now he could not turn back, would not. He stared at the door ahead. He wasn't here for books. He was here because he missed the sound of her voice, because part of him, a part he couldn't discipline into silence, was hoping he might see her. He shifted his weight. His hand hovered near the latch.
"What if I'm the last man she wants to see?"
he muttered to himself. He opened the door. The scent hit him. Parchment, ink, a trace of lavender. It wrapped around his throat like a whisper. Shells rose around him like cathedral walls, soaked in silence. A page turned. He followed the sound, toward the back alcove, toward her. She sat near the farthest window, barely touched by sunlight, its glow falling in fractured lines across her skirts and the open spine of a book. One hand rested lightly on the page, though her eyes weren't moving, not reading, not even pretending. She looked like a still life, breathless, suspended. Tristan paused. He had seen her in gowns that glittered, in gardens alive with sound, in moonlight, at the upper balcony, but never like this. He wondered if she could hear the war happening in his chest. And then, her head lifted. Her eyes found his. She blinked, slowly, once, and said nothing. No gasp, no blush, no smirk. Just silence.
"Your Highness."
She didn't rise, didn't frown. but her voice was flat as polished silver. "You shouldn't be here."
I know.
Her gaze held his. "Do you know what it means to be found alone in here? With a princess?" He did, and so did she. Still, he didn't move. Not until she added, even softer, "Do you think I would lie for you?" Marguerite didn't look away. She turned a page she hadn't read and let her hand rest there, firm. Her voice was quiet, clipped. "Then say what you came to say." He hesitated, a breath too long. She noticed.
I thought you were childish.
His voice didn't waver, but it carried weight. "The way you laughed too loudly, said things you shouldn't say, flirted like rules didn't matter, and maybe I was wrong to think that." Her lips twitched, not a smile, not quite. "And now?"
Now I see you differently. You stopped chasing. You let silence speak. That takes more discipline than half the men I serve beside.
That caught her. A flicker passed behind her lashes, but she steadied. "You shouldn't say that."
It's true.
"You mean because I chase guards through gardens and interrupt morning drills?"
No, because you stopped. Because you could have pushed harder and didn't. That restraint? That's not childish. That's royal.
She went very still. No more page turning, no clever remark, just silence, wrapped tight around her throat. "Do you know what it means for me to be here?" She looked down at her hands. "To speak like this, to feel this. I am a princess, promised to a man I barely stomach. That's not childish, Tristan. That's a sentence."
I know.
"Then, don't call me a child, not again."
I won't.
"You should go." Tristan didn't move. The light shifted slightly, casting shadows that split the floor between them like a drawn blade. She closed the book slowly, deliberately, but didn't rise. Her voice was calm, but her spine had straightened, as if bracing.
I would, if I believed I should.
He stepped forward. Not a bold stride, but a slow, reverent closing of distance. His boots barely made sound on the marble. The air between them shifted, heavy now. He stopped, just short of her chair, eyes lowered, then raised with new steadiness.
Tell me something, Princess Marguerite. Permit me to ask this before I take my leave. Did you flirt with me because I was a convenient toy to distract you from your future? Or were you truly curious to know me?
He waited. The question lingered in the alcove like perfume. Marguerite stood slowly, book forgotten. His presence towered over her, but not by force. She hadn't realized how far above her his head rested until now, until he inclined it slightly, as though meeting her halfway was instinct, not indulgence.
I judged you by your laughter, by your boldness. I thought it foolish, but you stopped. You turned silent, and in that silence, I saw more than I wanted to.
His posture shifted again, closer, not touching but nearly. The edge of his tunic brushed her sleeve. She felt it. Her breath hitched before she knew it had escaped. He looked at her, not her lips, not her hands, but her eyes. And for a fleeting second, his own eyes softened. Masculine still, but no longer unreadable.
I am a man of duty, but right now, your eyes are making that word feel like a lie.
She trembled, just slightly, not from fear, but from the way his nearness rewrote the rules of the air. He began to lean in, only slightly, just enough to unbalance both of them with what could happen. And then...
"Your Highness!" Celine's voice rang from the archway, her eyes wide as she stepped into the candlelight.
The moment broke like glass. Marguerite pulled back. Her breath returned like a gasp she hadn't been holding. Tristan stepped away sharply, his expression shuddering.
Forgive me. I didn't mean...
The fault is mine.
He bowed, stiff, perfect, and turned without another word. She stood frozen, eyes still wide, as if the warmth of his nearness clung to her sleeves, and the kiss that never came hung louder than any touch might have, for now.
Your Highness, are you well?
Marguerite didn't answer right away. She stared at the narrow doorway where Tristan had disappeared, her breath still not entirely hers. Her hands trembled slightly as she gathered the fallen pages of the book she hadn't been reading.
He shouldn't have been here.
Marguerite pressed her lips together. I know.
Celine hesitated, then said carefully, There's more. He was looking for you, Etienne.
Marguerite blinked. Who?
The new guard, appointed last week by order of Prince Louis. He arrived this morning asking for you. Said the prince sent word you're to visit him at once. And my lady, he said. The prince requested that he personally escort you. He said he trusts no one else with his bride-to-be. At least, that's what he says.
Etienne was not of Blois. He had not grown up in its barracks, nor earned his place through quiet loyalty. He had come with a letter and a seal, and that was enough. Appointed directly by Prince Louis, he was no ordinary guard. He was a shadow planted in broad daylight, dressed in royal blue, smiling too often. Marguerite turned slowly toward the alcove entrance. Heavy boots approached, slow and certain. The figure who entered was tall, lean, with sharp eyes that did not blink nearly enough. His smile was small, but it showed too many teeth.
Your Highness?
He bowed, low, theatrical. She said nothing.
He gives me a strange feeling. The others say he watches. Too closely.
Marguerite nodded once, eyes never leaving Etienne. The moment had shifted. The library, once full of unsaid words and heat, now chilled like dusk after a storm. She stepped forward. Very well. Take me to the prince. The corridor leading to Prince Louis's chambers was unnervingly long. Cold light from the stained glass windows fractured across the floor in red and gold, like veins drawn across marble. Marguerite walked in silence. Etienne followed one pace behind, his steps too controlled, too deliberate. When they reached the outer antechamber, a servant opened the door without being asked. The scent inside struck her first. Rich wine, clove-drenched smoke, and something floral but cloying. As she stepped into the room, she heard it. The soft rustle of fabric. A shape, half-shadowed, emerged from the prince's private quarters. A woman, hair unkempt, a sleeve undone. Her eyes widened at the sight of Marguerite and then darted away. She didn't curtsy. She didn't speak. She slipped past like guilt given form. Etienne said nothing. Marguerite didn't ask.
Ah, my dear.
He stood by the hearth, already half into a goblet of wine. His tunic hung open at the throat, and he did not move to adjust it.
I requested your company, and you took your time.
Marguerite stepped forward slowly, arms crossed. You did not send word. Your new escort did.
You question my messengers now.
She said nothing. He studied her with amusement, like a man entertained by his pet's defiance. Behind his eyes there was calculation, but little warmth. The longer she stood before him, the more she realized he didn't want a wife. He wanted a symbol, and symbols did not speak unless prompted.
I must say, I am pleased you came today. A lot of beautiful women, ones with your title and youth, would have waited, taken their time, come when it suited them.
He turned, sipped his wine again.
But not you, no.
You came when asked. That tells me something.
Marguerite's jaw tightened. He watched her for a beat longer, then waved a hand dismissively.
We'll speak again soon. I like an obedient bride.
Marguerite didn't nod. She didn't bow. She turned her head slightly. "I will come," she said, "but not for your amusement." She didn't wait for dismissal. As she walked past Etienne, his eyes followed, but his face gave nothing away.
Hushed. What happened in there?
Marguerite's voice was low. "He wanted to see if I'd come."
And?
Marguerite's jaw was tight. "I did." 2 days had passed since she visited the prince. She just crossed the lower courtyard when the message came. Again. A summons from Prince Louis. Marguerite stood at the base of the stairs, jaw clenched, wind teasing the hem of her gown. The wedding was tomorrow, and still he called for her as if she were a chambermaid to be fetched.
Shall I fetch your cloak?
Marguerite didn't answer. Her eyes had already turned toward the western hall, not toward the prince, toward the library. "I need a moment to myself." She slipped inside the marble corridor, quick-footed. She needed silence, shadows, books she wouldn't read. She needed to breathe like no one owned her. But someone had seen her. Tristan. He had been walking off duty when he caught her figure turning the corner. Instinct moved him. He turned, followed. Just as she entered the library, he stepped in behind her, closing the door with a soft click. She turned, startled, her hand at her chest.
I'm sorry.
She didn't speak. Her eyes said enough. Red-rimmed, glistening. He didn't think. He reached for her hands, pulled her gently. A resistance faltered, her breath hitched. And when she didn't step back, he did the unthinkable. He held her. She didn't fall, but she would have. Her forehead rested near the base of his collar. He bent his head low.
If you cry, I will let you, but only if I can laugh after.
She chuckled once. A broken, tear-choked sound. He wiped the tears with his thumb. Slowly. Reverently. "He's testing me. That's all this is. He knows I hate it. That's why he calls me now. To prove I'll come. To show I'm obedient.
And tomorrow...
Tomorrow I marry him. Because my parents want peace. Because my people expect it." He looked at her. She looked up. That was the moment. A pause stretched long between two uneven heartbeats, their faces inches apart, his breath warm against her cheek. She didn't move back, and he didn't ask. He kissed her, softly, once. It was not a kiss of possession or promise. It was a kiss given because no one else would ever offer one like it again. They stood there, eyes closed, not speaking. When he finally pulled back, his voice barely rose.
Go to him. Not because you want to, but because you must.
She nodded, but neither of them moved. It was a love that bloomed only in silence and wilted in the light. The wedding bells began before the sun touched the eastern towers. Servants rushed through corridors with pressed linens and garlands of late summer roses. The palace thrummed with ceremony. Every mirror had been polished, every tapestry dusted, and at the front of the grand chapel, Prince Louis stood beneath the carved arch of Saint Armand, robed in ceremonial blue. He smiled, but only with his mouth. Guests whispered among themselves as they filed in, dignitaries from Artois, envoys from Anjou. Gold gleamed on the altar. The air smelled of incense and rising tension. And yet, the bride had not come. The prince checked the entrance once, then twice. Still no Marguerite. It was not the bride who was first to worry. It was Céline. Her knock on the princess's chamber received no reply, nor did the second. She wouldn't. Inside the room, the gown still hung where it had been placed the night before, slippers untouched, the hairpiece glinting beside the mirror. Céline ran. She found Etienne first, standing near the lower corridor. "Where is she? She's not in her rooms. Have you seen her?" "I saw her return last night. We reached the compound. She said she needed air. I thought she'd go to the rose path." "Air? In the middle of the night? And you let her? You know how stubborn she can be. She waved me off." No one knew what happened next. She had been seen, and then she hadn't. At the altar, Prince Louis adjusted his gloves. The bells kept ringing, but no one walked down the aisle. By midday, the chapel had emptied, but the rumours had not. Servants clustered in corners. Guards lingered too long by doorways. In the great hall, a vase of roses shattered as a footman dropped it, too lost in hushed speculation. "Did she flee?" whispered a maid. "They argued, didn't they? The night before," murmured another. "Maybe it was the guard, the tall one, the one she used to look for." Whispers thickened around Tristan like fog. He walked the eastern corridor with a soldier's stride, but his eyes betrayed something unspoken. The steward glanced at him as he passed. So did a maid. So did 2 knights. And Tristan knew. He had become part of the story. Celine found him near the southern stair. She didn't raise her voice.
"They think she ran."
Tristan didn't answer. She folded her arms.
"And they think you helped her."
He straightened slightly, voice clipped.
Why would I?
Her gaze didn't waver.
"Because you were the only one she smiled at."
Silence. She stepped closer, searching his face.
"Did you see her last night?"
He met her eyes.
No.
She didn't blink.
"Would you tell me if you did?"
A beat passed. His jaw tightened.
No.
From somewhere beyond the chapel walls, bells tolled again. Not for a wedding, for inquiry. A princess had vanished, and the story was beginning to write itself. The screams of the guests had long faded. The chapel was empty now, except for questions. Celine stood just beyond the columns, breath shallow, hands trembling. She had begged them not to tell, begged the steward, the maids, the guards to give it a few more hours, just in case. But hours had passed, and Marguerite had not returned. Back at the secondary manor, miles away from the palace chapel, the Duke and Duchess of Anjou paced their private chamber in mounting unease. They had dressed in formal regalia. Their entourage stood ready. The palace carriage, which was supposed to escort them to the royal chapel, was late, or so they had been told. Celine had done all she could to stall them, sending messages, making excuses about carriage delays, last-minute ceremonies, unexpected processions. But even her resourcefulness was fading. The Duchess had just begun fastening her gloves, preparing to march toward the waiting coach herself. That was when the doors flung open. Celine stumbled in, cheeks flushed from her rushed journey.
"Your Grace!"
She paused, breathless, her chest rising sharply.
"She's gone!"
Gone?
The Duke thundered.
What do you mean, gone?
"No one has seen her since last night. We thought she might return, but—"
The Duchess staggered backward into her chair, her hand trembling at her mouth.
My daughter?
The Duke turned to his steward at once.
Seal the gates. No one leaves the palace. Not a rider, not a bird. Find Lord Ravoux. Tell him to begin at once.
His voice broke through the walls. But inside that room, the Duchess wept openly, her shoulders shaking. She had only one child, and no one could tell her where she was. The dusk air smelled of roses and smoke. Tristan stood at the western rampart, still in uniform though his shift had ended. His eyes scanned the horizon, then dropped to the path below. Habit, not hope. He hadn't slept. Not really. Just hours pacing, remembering her voice, the look in her eyes, the feel of her trembling in his arms. Footsteps approached. It was Lord Ravoux.
Firm, you, come with me. Measured. Am I being arrested?
Tristan asked. Blunt, no, not yet. But we found something.
He was led to the south gate. There, beneath the brush, half concealed by fallen ivy, lay a pale blue cloak. Marguerite's. Celine recognized it first. She nearly collapsed.
Shaken, she wore that last night.
Tristan knelt, brushing debris from the fabric.
Grim, it's been dragged. This wasn't dropped. Someone left it here.
Revo turned, already barking orders, commanding, "Fan out! Now! Search the woodlands, every path, every trail." Tristan stared at the cloak, fingers pressed into the folds like it might still hold her warmth. Someone had taken her, and he would be the one to find her. The forest swallowed sound. Tristan rode ahead of the search party, eyes alert, breath held tight in his chest. He followed no road, only the broken bramble, crushed moss, and the faintest sign of a path. He had found it. Boot prints too heavy for Marguerite's feet, a drag mark, a broken branch at waist height.
She had come this way. And she had not come willingly.
"Move quietly," he said to the two guards behind him. "No torches." A crow screamed somewhere above. The trail bent east, then dipped into a gully. Tristan dismounted, crouched, and held up a hand. There, near the stream bed, blood. Not much, just a smear on a rock. But enough. He followed it down the incline, and then the clearing appeared, a cabin, old, unused, half swallowed by ivy and rot. Tristan signalled to his men, then crept forward. He didn't know what he'd find, but his hand stayed on the hilt of his sword, and his heart was already racing. The wooden door moaned on its hinges as Tristan pressed it open, sword drawn, breath caught halfway to a word. Inside, darkness, heavy and close. Dust choked the air, the scent of mildew clung to the rafters, and then a sound, a shuffle, a gasp, a voice, barely a whisper. "Who's there?" Tristan froze. He knew that voice, every note of it, every shadow and softness it carried.
Marguerite.
A figure moved in the gloom, pale blue, wrinkled silk, bare feet. She stepped forward, slow, unsure, like the darkness had grown inside her too. "Tristan?" He crossed the room in 3 strides. She fell into him. Not with grace, not with drama, just the weight of someone who had carried fear too long. He sheathed his sword without looking and wrapped his arms around her. Her body trembled.
You're safe now. I've got you.
He felt her nod against his chest. Then, quietly, "I thought no one would come." He pulled back just enough to look at her face. Mud streaked her cheek, a cut above her brow. But her eyes were still her own.
Who brought you here?
She looked down, then up again, blinking slowly as if waking inside a dream. "The last thing I remember, I was with the prince. He offered wine. We drank. And, yes, Etienne, he was there. I think he..." Tristan said quickly, gently cutting her off as he saw her sway. "Not now. You're exhausted." She blinked again, slowly. He lifted her cloak from the ground, wrapped it around her shoulders, and turned her toward the door.
Can you walk?
She nodded, But her knees buckled as she tried. Without hesitation, he swept her up into his arms. Her head dropped against his shoulder. She didn't protest. Her breath was shallow, trembling. Outside, the cold air bit his face, but she was warm against him. Too warm. He moved swiftly through the woods, jaw tight, eyes set on the lights of the palace in the distance. So did Justice. The palace guards straightened when they saw him emerge from the woods. Tristan, filthy, cloak torn, carrying the princess in his arms. No orders needed, the gates opened. Celine was already at the top of the stairs, eyes wide, mouth trembling.
She's here? Oh heavens, Marguerite!
Tristan didn't pause.
Fetch warm cloths. Send for the royal physician. She needs rest, not questions, not tonight.
The Duke and Duchess had not slept. Word had spread that their search parties returned empty. Hope was thinning to dread. But when Celine burst into their chamber, all that dread crystallized.
She's back! Tristan found her! She's alive!
They rushed to their daughter's chambers. The Duchess fell to her knees beside the bed.
My baby, my girl.
The Duke's hand gripped the footboard. Silent, pale. Marguerite slept fitfully, eyes flickering beneath her lids. Tristan stood near the door, still. The soldier in him remained, but his eyes betrayed what his uniform could not. Something had changed in him forever. When the physician arrived, Tristan stepped out. He waited in the hallway until Celine emerged and nodded softly. "She'll wake by morning," he nodded once, then left. The next morning, Marguerite stirred. Sunlight touched her cheek. The room smelled of lavender and boiled herbs. Celine sat near the window, clutching a damp cloth.
You remember anything, my lady?
Marguerite closed her eyes, then opened them again. Wine. He poured it, the prince. Said we should drink to our future. I didn't want to, but he watched me. Her voice cracked. She swallowed. Etienne was in the room. I remember his shadow. He was nervous, fidgeting. Then darkness. Celine stood.
I'll fetch the Duke and Duchess.
By the time they entered, Marguerite was sitting upright, her eyes clearing with each breath. She told them everything. The wine, the darkness, the cabin. The Duchess sobbed silently. The Duke's eyes were steel. Etienne was summoned. He arrived pale and breathless, unsure of what he was walking into.
You said she returned safely.
The Duke said.
You said you saw to it.
Yes, Your Grace. I brought her to the outer gates. She said she needed air. I thought...
In the middle of the night! And you let her wander!
The Duchess stood, voice sharp.
You left her! Why?
Etienne faltered. His mouth opened, then closed, and finally, he broke.
It was all His Highness's design. He said she was too bold, too unpredictable, that she'd make a mockery of the wedding. He never wanted to marry her, not truly. Said it was his parents' will, a political scheme to line houses. He told me to take her to the cabin in the woods. Let her vanish. Just long enough to cause a scandal. Call off the wedding without dishonouring himself. He said she'd be returned later, once the arrangement was severed. Promised me a title. Said obedience would be rewarded. I acted only on his word. I swear it. I swear it.
The room fell silent. The Duke turned to his steward. Contact the king. Within hours, the message reached the royal court. By decree of His Majesty, Prince Louis was placed under political exile, his title suspended, his estates seized. Etienne vanished by sunrise, last seen heading east on a royal horse. But Tristan, he stood at the palace baits when the decree was read, a soldier, a man, and now something else entirely, something that might just might, belong to her. The scandal had not yet cooled. In every corridor, voices dropped to whispers at the sound of a boot. But in the east wing, where the Duchess kept her rosewood desk, a quiet summons was received. Tristan had asked for an audience, alone. The Duchess tilted her head, surprised. The Duke raised an eyebrow. Now? Send him in. Tristan entered with the same posture he had when drawing his blade, deliberate, grounded, respectful. He did not bow deeply, he did not grovel. He simply stood and spoke.
I ask your permission to speak plainly.
The Duke crossed one leg over the other. Granted. Tristan's hands were clasped behind his back, but his voice betrayed a softness not typical of soldiers.
I love your daughter.
The Duchess's eyes widened, but she did not interrupt.
I did not intend to. I tried not to, and I never presumed I could have her. But I would rather speak now and be dismissed than remain silent and regret it for the rest of my life.
The Duke looked at his wife, then back at Tristan.
And what exactly do you offer her?
Devotion, safety, a love I've never given to another.
A pause. The Duchess leaned forward. Does she love you?
I hope she does.
The Duke narrowed his eyes. You are a royal guard. Is there more we should know? Tristan took a breath, a beat, and then...
I am the son of Prince Renat of Valmont.
Silence struck the room like a hammer. The Duchess's hand flew to her mouth. The Duke rose. Valmont. The missing heir. Tristan nodded once. I left my house, my title and my country when I was 17. I wanted a life of my choosing, not of their making. The Duchess whispered, almost to herself, Renat's wife. She had those same eyes. A knock. Celine's voice behind the door. Your Graces, the princess is here. The Duke looked at Tristan, expression unreadable.
Let her in.
The door opened. Marguerite stepped inside, and everything was about to change. Marguerite stepped into the room, unaware of the storm that had passed just before her arrival. She was dressed in a soft indigo gown, her hair gathered in a single braid over her shoulder. Her eyes, though steadier now, still held the echo of the days she'd lost. Celine remained just outside the door. You sent for me, father? The Duke did not answer immediately. He turned to Tristan, then back to his daughter.
A man has asked for your hand.
Marguerite blinked. Who?
He will tell you himself.
Tristan stepped forward.
I know I have no right to make this request, but I could not live another day without saying it aloud. I love you, and if you'll have me, I will spend my life proving I was worth your affection.
She stared, and then something broke, something loosened. Not in pain, but in the realization that he had truly returned. Not just in body, but in heart. Tristan, after everything, you still came for me. He nodded. The Duchess dabbed at her eyes. Marguerite turned to her parents, but instead of waiting, she stepped toward Tristan and took his hand. Gently, firmly, as if she had made her choice long before this moment. Do you consent? She then turned fully to face Tristan, looking up at him, eyes bright with something raw and unfiltered. You are so tall. She tilted her head, lips barely parting. Aren't you going to kiss me? Tristan blinked, his voice hushed but urgent.
Here, in front of your parents.
The Duke cleared his throat loudly. The Duke hesitated, but the Duchess placed a hand on his arm. He is not just a guard, my love. He is a prince's son. He walked away from privilege and returned with honour.
Would your family recognize this union?
Tristan opened his mouth, but before he could speak, A sudden commotion in the hall. Bootsteps, raised voices. The chamber door swung open. A tall, greying man stood in the doorway, dressed in a travelling cloak heavy with dust. One of the guards immediately turned and hurried to the Duke, whispering something with urgency. The Duke straightened with surprise, then strode forward, forgetting formality.
Prince Renat.
Marguerite stepped back. Tristan stood still.
My son? A royal guard? Tristan, is this what you left for?
The entire room froze. The Duke looked between them.
Prince Renat.
Tristan's jaw clenched. He nodded. The man stepped inside, voice rising.
Your mother has mourned you for 6 years. Your sisters wept for months. And all this time, you've lived as a soldier? Hiding?
Tristan's voice was hoarse.
I needed a life of my own.
Prince Reynard turned slowly to the Duke and Duchess.
I apologize for the intrusion. I came because the rumors reached even my ears. I had to see for myself what my son had become, and I did not expect to find this.
He looked at Marguerite.
And this is the woman for whom my son fled his name.
Silence. Then...
Do you love her, truly?
Firmly. Yes, father.
Reynard nodded.
Then I will not stand in your way.
Marguerite let out a breath she didn't know she held. The Duchess smiled through tears. The Duke extended his hand to Tristan.
Welcome home, Lord Tristan.
And the future shifted on its axis.
The ballroom of Château de Blois had never glowed so bright.
Candles floated in golden chandeliers overhead. Velvet drapes caught the light like wine. Musicians played softly in the corner, their melodies a gentle balm over the whispers rippling through the room. Guests had come expecting a night of mourning, a society ball meant to mend reputations and soothe scandal. Instead, they bore witness to something else entirely. Marguerite entered wearing midnight blue. She no longer walked like a girl. Her shoulders were square, her chin tilted. Her hand rested softly in Tristan's arm. He wore no armour, only a dark royal coat, no medals, no sashes, only the quiet pride of a man who had returned from exile not of land, but of name.
Do you think they'll all stop staring eventually?
Marguerite whispered with a crooked smile.
No, eventually.
You still haven't kissed me, you know. Tristan glanced down at her.
You counting?
She gave him a look, only the missed ones. Laughter bloomed between them, light, real. As the night wound on, the Duke lifted a hand to silence the crowd.
My friends, tonight we celebrate not only the return of honor to this house, but the beginning of a new chapter, a true union of heart and valor.
He turned to Tristan.
Lord Tristan, will you make it official?
Tristan turned to Marguerite, and suddenly the room disappeared. He stepped forward, took her hand, and knelt, quietly reverent. Marguerite of Anjou, you make me believe in impossible things. Would you? She cut him off with a whisper that wasn't nearly as quiet as she thought. You were such a cute camel. The crowd gasped, laughed. The Duke nearly choked on his wine. Tristan blinked, stunned. Marguerite leaned forward, touched her nose to his. You always say I look at you like I'm about to steal you. Well, I am, so you'd better kiss me now, before I change my mind. And he did. The kind of kiss that anchored you, that settled lifetimes, that no ball nor court nor crown could erase. Above them, the chandeliers shimmered, and the past at last gave way to the future.